Hello. This is Dr. Ihachi here. I will introduce you and welcome you to this class. This is CLAB 123 for science majors. Our first meeting is expected to be on Tuesday, August 22nd in SBA Annex. That's where we take our lecture before going to the lab, room 239 at 8 a.m. So be sure to purchase your manual, available at the retail bookstore. It should be version 2023 in our first day of meeting on Tuesday. Bring a calculator. Always bring it all the time when you're coming for this class. You need one marble notebook composition. Do not remove pages from it. And I repeat, marble composition notebook. Let me show you what I mean, just in case you don't know what marble composition notebook is. One of these is what I'm talking about. Bring one marble composition notebook. Don't remove any pages from it. We'll use it for writing procedures, outlines, and recording data. Remember, one of the rules is that you must prepare an outline summary and a summary of the procedure in your own words in blue or black ink pen, not pencil, not any other color of pen, not red, not pink, not green. The outline of how you need to prepare that is shown under Appendix 1 of the syllabus. Most importantly for now, you need to complete the safety quiz, which is found by clicking safety quiz link on this page. See, it says safety test. Click it. You watch the videos. This is the actual test. You click it. It tells you it's due August 23rd. If I were you, I'll do it as soon as today. And then you come down here and start your attempt. Do it. It's a requirement for this lab for checking. Make sure you do it before coming to class on Tuesday. Alright, very important, safety test. Click that link and complete it. Face masks, if you tested positive and you have given a green light to come back to class and you still suspect yourself, put on your face masks. If not, we are okay without them. If you don't have COVID, you don't need to wear the face mask. I'll provide the safety goggles to use for this class and even for 124, the next lab after this. Cover as much skin as you can. Closed-toed shoes is my preference. Cover much of your upper arms. Use pants to cover most of your thighs, your legs, and everything. Once the lab is done, you can remove it and walk the way you want out there. But while in the lab, you have to cover up your skin, legs part, arms part. You have to cover those. Avoid excess skin exposure. If you have long hair, you have to tie it back in a ponytail. Remember, closed-toe shoes, no sandals, no flip-flops or open-toed shoes are allowed. Any violation of what's put on here, you will not be allowed in the lab. It's a 0. Lab safety is very, very important. We want all of us to be safe. We want all of us to be safe during the lab and even after. So let's be careful. Don't be very curious to mix chemicals without knowing what they'll do. You might just explode your head off. All procedures must be strictly followed. When in doubt, ask me. It's almost impossible to make up a lab that you've missed. You miss it, you get a 0. We don't want that. So try as much as possible to attend all labs. Just to remind you again, reiteration, complete your safety test by clicking that link before that day, which I believe should be next Wednesday. Do it as soon as today, please, please, please. Let's talk about the syllabus. If you click it, you'll see the syllabus. I'm in Whitehall 221. Like I said, we will always be meeting in SBA building, room number 239 for lecture before pre-lab, pre-lecture or testing before going to the lab, which will be in Parsley Hall. Best way to contact me is by email. I prefer you contact me by email. That's my office phone. This is the department phone. For whichever reason you'll need it, I don't know. And those are my office hours. Okay. You do have a manual that you need to get before coming for lab next week from the retail bookstore. Always bring a calculator. We talked about that. And the marble notebook I showed you, you need one of these marble notebooks. Okay. Do not remove any pages. Don't use whiteout. Don't scratch it. Don't scribble words like this. If you wanted to say black, but you ended up saying black, this should just be crossed with one line. I should be able to read it. And then after that, you write what you needed to write. Again, if it's not black, cross it until you write what you needed to write. If it's black, cross it until you write black. Make sure I read what you've crossed. Don't use whiteout. Don't tear off pages. Don't scribble over the word that you don't want me to see. Okay, use single line. I should be able to read it. Those are ethics that you need to know. Scientific notebook writing ethics that you need to know as you grow as a scientist. Data tables must be posted in the notebook before you come to class. I'll talk about that soon. The outline must be completed prior to coming to the lab meeting, and you should see that in Appendix 1. If you do not have the title, the objective, purpose, the procedures, in summary, written in your notebook up to data and observation, you will not be allowed in the lab. This is a must. Let me show you Appendix 1 of the syllabus that describes what you need to have every day, every time you come for lab. Here it is. So you have to have a date. If you have a lab partner, you have to include the lab partner on the first line, and then you have to have the experiment number 1, 2, 3, 4, blah blah blah, and then you will have the title. We always write on the right hand side of the page. If this is your notebook, okay, you want to write here. You don't want to write there. Data tables can go on either side, but not your writing, not your handwriting. So once you have the date, the partner's name, experiment number, which will be up here, and the title, the next thing you want to write is your objective. This is 2 to 3 sentences, but not one sentence. It's just your objective. What did you come to do? And in that case, you also avoid pronouns. You know what pronouns are? I, me, she, he, they. You don't want pronouns in the notebook. Next, you will have to write a summary of what you're coming to do. Summary of what you're coming to do. The purpose and objective is different. Purpose is different from the summary. Summary will kind of be steps that you'll be doing, but in a summary, in a paragraph form. Here is the overall objective. Here is specific details of what you're coming to do. The data tables will be provided on Moodle. You want to print out the data tables and paste them after the procedure. You will paste those after the procedure in your notebooks. Okay, you have to prepare those data tables by printing and pasting them on, taping them on your notebook, not stapling them, or you can draw them if you want to draw them manually. A copy of the same data must be posted onto your lab report, which I will be describing shortly. I'll describe shortly your lab report, what's needed. And then when I'm doing the lecture, so after the data tables in your notebook, when I'm doing the lecture, when I'm lecturing, you can write your notes from that point onwards in your notebook. Please again, do not tear pages out of the notebook. Don't do that. Again, to remind you again, use ink pen. And never erase things or scribble over them. Or never use correction fluid tape. Like I said, if you wanted to write black, yet you wrote broke, you will just use a line, and then after the line you would correct yourself and write black. Anything you write during the lab should be in the notebook, not the lab manual. The lab manual is just but a guide. Okay, your data, lab manual is a guide. Your data goes to the notebook. Your notes during the lecture goes to the notebook after the data tables. To emphasize what I just said, I'm gonna come here and describe your notebook. So as you see, this is a marble composition, This is a marble composition notebook. Okay, that's the front cover. That's the front cover. On the front cover, please write your name and please write CLAB 123. You are in section 3, and by the way, we are in fall 2023. On the inner cover here, I encourage you to print your lab schedule, which is found by clicking here, lab schedule fall 2023. Here it is. If you click that, you will see a file that looks like this. That file is put on the inner cover of the notebook. The very first ruled page will be the table of contents. I encourage you to use a ruler to draw lines. Okay, so use a ruler and draw the table of contents as I've shown. The first column will be the score, that's for me. The second is gonna be the experiment number, you know, whether it's experiment 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this one is gonna be the experiment title, and then this is gonna be the page number where your experiment is found. The experiment title could be something like this: data analysis, measurement, or density of volumetric analysis. Okay, so inner cover with the lab schedule. Remember we said you want to have your lab schedule on the inner cover. This here you'll paste your lab schedule followed by the table of contents. This information goes on the top cover. Now on the very last ruled page, you want to tape the NFPA diamond. Okay, NFPA diamond goes on the very last page of the notebook, ruled page of the notebook, and then that will be the setup of your notebook. Now let me show you an example of lab preparation, because I told you when I was talking, when I started, that it's important that you prepare a notebook for the lab before you come in, as shown in Appendix A, Appendix 1 of the syllabus. You need a date, you need a partner's name, if any, otherwise you might be working by yourself. Most of the time you'll be working by yourself. So there's the title, this is the page number that you have posted on the table of contents. For example, here that would have been page 3. Okay, this would have been page 3. And then you have an objective. The objective should be very short and customized. Don't talk too much. Again, like I said, you do not want to use pronouns. Okay, but give an objective on what you're coming to do. No pronouns. Okay. And then you give a summary. You'll give the experiment summary. And how do you know the summary? It's by reading your manual and making a summary. You've written summaries before, so you write some summary. And then after that, when you flip the other page, you turn over. When you turn over, you're gonna attach your empty printed data tables in the next side, the right side of the notebook, the next page over. The copy of the data tables are usually provided on Moodle. Let me show you where. Let's say you are doing basic measurements. Copy of data tables to download will be somewhere, something like some place like here, something like this, you know, a file like this one. You print it and make a copy of it and attach it in your notebook using a clear tape. After attaching your data tables, then you are able to write your notes moving on as I lecture in class. But you have to have this before you come in for whichever experiment. For next week, you don't need to write anything, any experiment in your notebook. Just prepare your front and inner cover and back cover and the table of contents. But when you come back to do this experiment, let's see. Yeah, when you come back to do this experiment right here, you will have to write it. I'll check and see if you need one for SigFix, but I don't think so. I'll check the revised manual and see. We will start with experiment 00, which is significant figures. I already put some examples there, and the report needs to be done from it. I believe your manual has a report under experiment 00 that needs to be turned in. I'll tell you when by email. Okay. Now before you come in for each and every lab experiments, there is a pre-quiz. For example, if it's basic measurement, there is a pre-lab quiz that you need to download or just answer it from your manual. And that is due, the pre-quiz is called pre-quiz because it's due before every lecture. The pre-quiz of the day is due before every lecture. One more time I repeat, you want to turn in your pre-quiz before the lab begins. Now let me go back to the syllabus. So again, you have pre-quizzes that are due. They're usually posted on Moodle and they're in your manual. They are usually due before lecture begins. If you don't turn it in at that very moment, it's a 0 because it's a pre-quiz, it's not a post-lab quiz, it's a pre-quiz. Late turn-ins will not be acknowledged. Lab reports are usually due the next lab session. So if you do experiment 1 this week, the lab report of experiment 1 will be due the next time we meet, due together with the pre-quiz of that day. Here is the breakdown of grades. You have 8 experiments, 9 reports including significant figures, 8 pre-labs, a midterm and a final. Midterm and finals are practicals. I will provide you the study guide of the practicals when time comes. Grading is in the 10-point scale. And the rest you can read. Alright, see you then.